Hello and welcome to Sophie&Co. I'm Sophie Shepard-Natze, and we have a very special guest today who seems to have tasted it all. Master of Paranoia, he's made fortunes in people's fear of internet viruses. He then worked on an all-cure antibiotic in the jungle of Belize, but had to flee in order to escape murder charges. John McAfee, what is he up to now?
He has tried drugs, guns, poverty, luxury, freedom, and jail. Has been on top of the world and on the run for his life. He speaks sense but acts nonsense. John McAfee, a madman or a wise man? Known for his antivirus software, who is he fighting now? Or has he found peace?
Hi, John. It's very nice to have you on the program. So you've led a very unconventional life, right? You have drugs, millions, women, lawsuits, guns, fleeing the United States, living in a jungle, murder suspicions, then escape back to the U.S. What are you up to right now?
Well, right now I'm working on a project to provide more security for the internet. Not just against hackers, but also against what everyone knows is government spying against the American citizens. It is natural, I think, for governments to want to spy on their populations in some circumstances, but it's also natural, I think, for people to want their privacy. So I'm working on a product which will ensure that privacy for American citizens.
So do you still have troubles with the law in the United States, which is what you initially fled from?
No, I have no trouble with the law here in the U.S. I really didn't have trouble with the law in Belize. I left Belize because of an ongoing feud between myself and the government, which ended badly. But here in America, I've been here for a year. I have no problem with the U.S. government. I'm a tax-paying citizen and a productive citizen. And I'm treated very well by the authorities here. I'm working on a couple of movies, a couple of books, a biography is being written. That keeps me busy, and my own technical projects. So I keep very busy. I live in Portland, Oregon, very beautiful part of America.
Now, for your age, and I believe you're 68, right? You just look amazing. You have this crazy energy level of a young man. You're almost like Dorian Gray. What do you do?
You know, again, I thank you very much for the compliment. I'm not sure what I do. I just get up early and work hard, and I don't eat right. I sometimes smoke cigarettes. I do all the wrong things. I'm not sure. The comparison to Dorian Gray is a little bit disconcerting because Dorian Gray was, in fact, a very cruel and an evil person. I hope that part does not apply. I know
we're
you
just
refer
talking
to
about looks.
The unaging gentleman while his painting aged. I understand. Yeah, well, I'm not sure. Again, I thank you for the compliment. I'm feeling younger every moment as you talk to me that way.
Mm-hmm. Now, you claim you've stayed sober from drugs and alcohol for over 37 years, although in some ways you appear to almost advertise drugs. Where do you stand? I just want to make sure and be clear. Are drugs bad, evil, and they should be banned, or people should make their own choice?
Well, I think people need to make their own choice in every aspect of their lives. Once you become an adult, freedom of choice is an innate right, I think. I have never advertised drugs. And in fact, I advise everyone, including my daughter and my close friends, not to take drugs under any circumstances. I did so in the past, a lot of drugs, actually, and so I do have experience, very negative experience from drug use. But people should be allowed to make their own choice. I'm not trying to advertise drugs. I'm not trying to get people, other than my close friends and relatives, to not do drugs. It's your personal choice. Your choices in life will come back to you, and you will learn yourself what is right and wrong for you.
The Silk Road was busted. It's the online black market. What do you make of that?
Well, that was shut down. You can't stop these things. There's always been a black market. an underground black market for anything. You know, people can buy illegal guns. Drugs are really black market items. You know, human trafficking. This has existed since the beginning of man, and now that we have the electronic age, you cannot expect that that will not also occur in the internet, in the electronic world. The fact that it was shut down was a mistake on the part of the founder, but trust me, someone will come up with the equivalent that simply can't be shut down.
Mm-hmm. Talking about electronic age, technology, in your opinion, does it empower or enslave you?
Well, it does both. And again, there's where you have freedom of choice. Technology has given us the smartphone, which will allow us to communicate across the world, sometimes looking at the person's face while we're speaking. It allows us to access information, powerful information, while we're traveling on trains or buses or sitting in a restaurant or at our office. At the same time, it can enslave, and if you look around you, you will see those who are enslaved. You can walk into many restaurants at lunchtime and look at the people. Over half of them are not looking at their partner or the person they're sitting across the table from. They're looking down at their smartphone and texting. Sometimes everybody is doing that. That seems like slavery to me, where you are enslaved to the device to the point that you completely block out human presence. And I think that's a very bad sign. We need to use technology for what technology is intended for. Automobiles to get us places faster, telephones so that we don't have to run across town to talk to somebody. But when they become our masters, then we become the enslaved.
I want to talk a bit about Decentral. It's a decentralized encrypted wireless network that you've been working on. I'm trying to figure out the motives behind. Are you worried about everyone being spied on, or are you making a political stand? Do you have a political stand?
I have no political stance. I believe that it does not matter eventually what party is in power. You know, the political process goes on as it always will. Power corrupts. People in power tend to do what all people in power do. I don't have a political stance. I do have a stance as an individual and as a member of society. I do not want someone looking through my bedroom window, whether it's an impartial observer or not, whether they're going to prosecute me or not. I want some privacy to do the things that we as human beings need privacy for. And we're losing that. We're losing that to a great extent. And it's not just the NSA, by the way, that is spying on us. I mean, the NSA was the one that was first outed by Edward Snowden. But I can guarantee you that all other covert government agencies, of which there are more than 15, are doing the same thing. The CIA, the FBI, military intelligence. We know it's happening. And that alarms me. It truly alarms me. It's not what we created government for. We didn't create a government that could watch over us and keep us safe from ourselves. We created a government so that it could provide facilities to make life reasonable. Roads, schools, all the things that governments should be doing. This simply is not correct, and so I needed to do something.
Talk to me about Decentral. Is this something that can be globally engaged, or it's more of a local thing?
Oh, it can definitely be globally engaged. It's a completely flexible and moving localized network where every other unit within a quarter-mile radius is directly communicating with your unit. We have relays that can relay things across the city, the state, the country, or the entire planet. And it will not replace the internet, certainly not at first. It is an augment to the internet. It is a device without a screen. It's just an on-off switch. You drop it in your pocket. It communicates with your smartphone. So if you're on the internet with your smartphone, you can do whatever you're doing. If you want to send someone a private message, something to your sweetheart, and you wanted to say something juicy, or to your business associate talking about a plan that you do not want your competitors to know about, then you switch to the private network, which is ours. And everything is absolutely secure. Number one, if you intercept a packet, it has no names attached to it or location either. There's no way to tell who is sending what to whom. And it is all encrypted, using an encryption technique that the NSA nor any other agency was involved in. it simply cannot be seen, and if it can't be seen, then it can't be hacked.
Mm-hmm. You know, Brazil is trying to create the BRICS cable. That's an internet system independent of the US and Britain, and that's to avoid NSA spying. Do you back that idea?
Well, it won't fly. It won't fly for the long term, because any system that is completely disconnected from the internet will suffer from lack of totality. You cannot get a bridge from one network to another network, which provides the security that you need, because once you get into the internet, the big network, it's all gone. It's fair game again. I think that a governmental or a private entity which is not global will have a very difficult time flying.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever suspected the NSA of spying on you personally?
Well, that's an interesting question. To be frank with you, given my public exposure and my past life, I would be shocked if the NSA was not spying on me, nor the CIA, nor the FBI. I mean, think about it. If, you know, for example, 2 months of last year, I was in top of the press as a potential meth lab manufacturer, a possible murderer, someone involved with a foreign government. I'm back in the States. Can you imagine if someone said, by the way, what is McAfee doing? And they go, well, we're not watching him. That would be strange, wouldn't it? Or perhaps I really am paranoid.
No, it would be strange indeed. Now let's take a short break, but we'll be back with technology pioneer John McAfee to discuss whether paranoia creates a good business opportunity and what software does McAfee use on his own computer. Stay with us. Welcome back. I'm talking to John McAfee, a legendary software developer. Great to have you back. Now, I heard you say that if you were Google and the government asked you for information, you'd hand it over, just like Google did. Why? It was in one of your interviews, actually.
Yes, I mean, keep in mind, the government does not come and just politely ask you. It said, oh, gee, will you please hand over this information? The government comes with a series of very scary powers, auditors, or the potential for auditors, regulations and rules that could shut you down. I mean, if you were to absolutely say no to, like, the NSA, you know, and from Google's position at this early point in Google's life, it might mean the end. And when I said I said, given the same circumstances that Google was in, I would probably do the same thing. I'm not going to structure my system and my company in the same way that Google is. There will be overseas locations that I can continue operating if the U.S. government wants to shut me down. In my case, I would definitely send them away. Say no. This is the problem. We use the U.S. regulations and the U.S. system to create our businesses, and then we are in their hands, in their power. You would be crazy if you were Google not to give them the information.
You know, from an observer's point of view, I can see American society increasingly unhappy with what's going on in their country and their government. Where do you stand?
Well, you know, this is America, and I am an American. I was born and raised here, and I love my country. That does not mean that I love the political process or the political evolution. Obviously, we cannot be happy knowing that our every move could be watched by someone in the government. That's simply not acceptable, not in this country. And we look at the government excesses, the total waste of money. You know, $100 million for a piece of software like the Obamacare implementation that appears to be useless. And we're hardworking. You know, we work hard, we pay our taxes, and many of us as Americans, we are barely getting by, paying our rent, paying our mortgage, paying our food, supporting our kids, sending them to school. And we see this excess right in front of us, such waste. Who could be happy? Seriously.
Mm-hmm. What operating system do you use on your computer?
Well, I have a lot of computers. I use both Apple computers, Macs. I use every known brand and version of Windows. They're all the same to me, really. I mean, nothing is completely secure. Nothing is completely satisfactory. Whether you use Mac or Windows, there's always something that people are complaining about, and that's just the nature of life. I'm leaning toward Macs these days just because, you know, I'm getting older and I don't want to continue to learn the new versions of Windows that are coming out. So, but that's just my personal preference, and both are equal.
You know, Richard Stallman, that we spoke to not long ago, calls Apple and Microsoft software malware. I know that you've sold McAfee antivirus like 15 years ago, but it is a pretty annoying thing. Like, it keeps popping up on my computer all the time. Could it be used for spying, do you think, or is it used for spying?
Of course, any piece of software can be used for spying. You have no idea how simple it is for a programmer to put a backdoor into a system. A backdoor is, to explain it simply, is a way for the programmer or for anybody that has the special code to log on to the software and take control. This happens all the time. In fact, there are applications that you can buy for a multiple variety of operating systems called keystroke loggers that will watch every keystroke that a user logs and then send that information to any address that you like. With that information, you could get a person's passwords, you can log into their email, read their email, you can turn on the camera on their laptop if the case is open and see what's happening in the room. And if it's closed, you can turn on the microphone and listen to what's happening. This is trivial. People don't understand how widespread this is. For example, if you use the Bank of America application on an Android phone, you have to click yes to agree to the terms. Well, terms go on for pages and pages. Nobody reads them. I do sometimes. If you read the terms, it gives the Bank of America the right to turn on the camera on your phone anytime that it wishes. And you've given them global permission so they don't have to notify you. Well, I know why they do it. I mean, if you empty your bank account and then say, it wasn't me, someone stole my phone, they'll go, well, look, it certainly looks like you. But still, it's scary. If they can do it, anybody can do it. We have become lax in our vigilance of what we do. We have allowed people like the NSA and Bank of America and probably thousands of others to look and hear what we're doing because we just don't pay attention.
Oh my God, the Bank of America story is kind of crazy. Now, I know Kim.com is your personal hero. What is it that inspires you so much about him, or would you want to do something with him together?
Well, you know, I'm not saying he's my personal hero. I'm saying he's merely one of the leaders in the industry that I admire, and you can't deny that he's a leader in the industry. He single-handedly got double-digit percentage of all the internet traffic. I mean, that's no mean feat. Now, we have demonized him because his site was used for, you know, file sharing of an illegal nature. But the telephone is used for illegal purposes all the time, and we don't take telephones away from people. We've become very, very paranoid in our relation to what we develop on the internet, much of it because of Hollywood and the music industry. I don't believe in that, and I think that Kim.com did a great thing in the software he had developed. And of course, every new development is going to be used by crooks and thieves. It's just the way the world works.
Well, yeah, that was going to be actually my second question, because we talk about encryptions, and it can hide you from government's gaze, and that's great, but it also creates all sorts of ways to help criminals. Where is the middle ground?
I don't think there is a middle ground. I think that you cannot preemptively restrict your freedoms because of the fear of how something might be used. Everything that has ever been developed has been used for a bad purpose. Baseball bats, which are fun for baseball players to hit balls, they've also been used to beat people to death. I mean, we just cannot restrict ourselves because something might be used in the wrong way. And if you look at what the device is, I mean, privacy, good heavens, what is worth the price of losing your privacy? I can't think of anything.
Mm-hmm. On a different note, John, I want to talk about the antibiotic that you've been working on in Belize. Is it distributed in the United States? Does it have any distribution at all? And moreover, who does it help?
That product was abandoned when the Belizean government stormed my laboratory and destroyed $500,000 worth of property. At that point, I abandoned the jungle and went back to San Pedro Island. It was simply too dangerous for me to live in the interior any longer. Belize is a dangerous country, and if you look at statistics, it is the murder capital of the world based on murder rates per capita. I took a long look at my situation and realized that if I stayed and continued the research, I had a likelihood of meeting a bad end. So I abandoned it, went back to San Pedro, and that's one of the things perhaps I do regret doing. But I simply could not pursue it further.
So is the antibiotic dead? Is it all over?
Certainly my part of it is, yes. And it's tragic because the research was based on a new concept called quorum sensing, which is the means that bacteria use to communicate between themselves of the same species and also with other species of bacteria. We didn't even know it existed until about 10 years ago, and it opens up massive avenues of hope for all kinds of disease. But, you know, unfortunately, I needed access to the jungle plants along the rivers there in order to get samples of quorum sensing compounds developed by the plants, and I can't do that anymore.
Mm-hmm. You know, I'm thinking with all of your enterprises, the antivirus, the antibiotics, now the decentral, is it like a messiah syndrome because you want to save people, you want to save the world, or are you just a good businessman?
I hope I do not have a messiah complex. No, my interest really is not in saving the world. I think that's a vainglorious occupation. It simply, you don't really know what is right for the world. I am curious, and my curiosity is what drives me. I got into the computer virus field because when the concept first came up, I read about it the next day in the paper, and I thought, wow, that's fascinating, and started thinking about it and wrote a program to combat it. That became a business. The same thing when I started Tribal Voice. There was no instant messaging, and email was sort of tedious and time-consuming, so I thought there's got to be a better way, and came up with instant messaging. The same thing with all of my projects. I hear the concept, like the concept of quorum sensing. I go, wow, bacteria communicate with each other. How can that be used? Not that I'm against helping humanity. I certainly want to help humanity, but it's not what drives me. It really isn't. Mm-hmm. It's curiosity, just to be frank.
Really shortly, because program is coming to an end, many would also argue that you're the master of paranoia and you've capitalized on it. Do you suffer from it, though?
Well, you know, people called me paranoid when I was running from the Belizean government, but honestly, when you're hiding in the jungle and in ditches and people are trying to shoot you, is that paranoia? Well, maybe, but at least it's real. I don't consider myself paranoid. I consider myself cautious. People also point to the beginning of the virus industry, where a virus called the Michelangelo made great headlines, and I was talking about it. It was a real virus, and it was a real problem. The fact that I came out ahead in that process had nothing to do with paranoia and everything to do with my competitive capacities and my technological competence. So I don't know. If I am paranoid, then, you know, I get along pretty well in spite of it. I just don't think I am.
Thank you very much for this interview. That's all the time we have for today, folks. Our guest was legendary programmer John McAfee. Thanks for watching, and tune in for the next edition of Sophie&Co.